What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about Survivor South Africa Season 9, Return of the Outcasts. Going to be talking about the penultimate week here of Survivor SA, Week 5. So that is episodes 17, 18, 19, and 20. So my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and one of the things I did not like about this batch of episodes is that there were 4 episodes, but only 2 vote outs, and I feel like it didn't need to be this long, but it sure was, so.
And the cliffhangers were just so bad. I was like, oh my God, I was just fed up. Oh, cliffhanger on who wins immunity. That's not a cliffhanger. That just pissed me off.
Yeah, like, I feel like they should have just, like, I don't even know what they should have done because I felt like this didn't need to be 4 episodes, but I also understand, like, if they are contracted to do a certain amount of episodes, they need to do that many episodes, but
I guess they could have split up last week. Last week we had 4 episodes, 4 vote outs. They could have done 3 vote outs over 4 episodes, maybe made one of the blindside episodes too, so we could get some more information instead of dragging out these 2 votes to be 2 episodes each. So I don't know. I just left this week's episodes feeling sort of confused, even though we had 90 minutes each per tribal, like for one person going home. It was a lot of the No BS Alliance crumbling, falling apart, really for no reason besides miscommunication. So I just left this week feeling so unsatisfied and honestly confused.
yeah, I feel like confused was a very big word of the day because after the first vote out, I didn't really understand why some people had switched their votes and some people hadn't. And it's like, you had so much time to tell me why they changed their votes, and yet you didn't.
And I guess it's realistic with Real Survivor without such an edit. I feel like this is probably what being on the beach is like. So many different plans. Everyone is talking to everyone. It is very confusing. So many different things happening. So I guess as a viewer, we sort of got that this week where literally everyone was talking to everyone. There were so many different plans, conflicting or not. Everyone was playing one another, lying to each other's faces. So to be on the beach, actually, that is probably very realistic.
Yeah, but also I feel like one of the good things about watching it from home is that you do kind of get the edited version. So,
Not this week, apparently. So we start off episode 17, Monday's episode for the week. We see Killarney getting to share her story, losing her mom and her partner right before coming onto this season of the show. And she spoke about this a lot in her preseason interview. I was listening to the one with RHAP that Killarney did preseason. And so I'm glad that she got to share her story and get this content out there. But also, I was surprised that we haven't seen much of Killarney besides her being dunked on in the edit until we finally get this personal edit for her.
yeah, and it's kind of sad too because it's like she's been dunked on so much, but it's kind of like her story is really tragic. If they wanted to, like, make it, they could have given her a better, more personal edit before now. So,
Exactly. But it makes sense. Okay, they might have a family visit this time. So you would include everyone talking about their family, which would include Killarney's family and her story. But say Killarney didn't make it this far, would they just have not included this story for her? Because it's such a big motivator for her this season, going through that tragedy and all of that loss and grief, and still like working through that grief on the island. It just, if she didn't make it this far, would they have not included it, or were they just saving it to till this point?
yeah, I don't know. It just I felt bad. So,
Yeah, and I think like last week we were talking about Killarney being poo-pooed in the edit, sort of being like getting the dodo edit, and then this week we're also seeing her get the dodo edit. It's really got to suck, especially having that loss as such a big motivator to come out here for the second time, for her to be watching it back with other friends and family, and then to see, oh, I guess my reality on the island wasn't everyone else's perception. Everyone else thought that I was the GOAT for the season here. It's got to really suck watching it back for her, I feel like, and hopefully it doesn't ruin her memories of the experience.
Yeah, because I feel like we see a lot of people say that they were disappointed by their edit. And I get that in some ways. Like, you need, like, a villain in every story, but I feel like they didn't need to make Killarney seem as negative as they did.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting going into the finale if she makes it to the final two. Does she continue to get this edit, or does she start to get more of a hero edit going into next week? But it just feels sort of bad that constantly talking at tribal council, oh, there's a goat, where Killarney is talking about how she thinks she's really strong, but everyone else is really talking about how Killarney is the goat.
Yeah, so kind of sucks for her. But I do hope that they do give her more positive content, even if it doesn't seem that way, just because I felt like even in the later episodes, they still were kind of leaning into her being kind of a dodo. So
Yeah, I guess we'll see going into next week. We get to this potential loved ones visit challenge. Everyone was anticipating a family visit, which I was like, okay, everyone's anticipating it. Everyone is building it up so much. I want to see it now too. If it doesn't happen, it would be like such blue balls that they keep on bringing it up, but nothing would happen. But actually, it was a semi-family visit challenge where the winner would get to video call with a loved one. So they have to hop over this rig, and then they have to spell out Return of the Outcasts with the block letters. And if you win, you also get an advantage in the next immunity challenge.
they did a similar challenge to this in Heroes, Healers, Hustlers, and I remember it because Ben had the U upside down, and that was the reason that he lost this challenge. And yeah, I was thinking about that the entire time that I was watching this, because I was like, please, everyone, put your letters the right side up. And they did.
Yeah, this is the Ben challenge. I feel like it's interesting to see how certain challenges get like specified with different Survivor players, like the Michelle cylindrical block puzzle. That is a Michelle Fitzgerald puzzle. This is a Ben challenge, just looking how you spell those block letters. I feel like the challenge is a little bit unfair though. Is it not harder for shorter people? Because it didn't seem like the rig is like shorter or taller for different heights of people, but it's like Tajan was really, really tall. So he barely had to step over to prevent the thing from wobbling. But like Marion, who is shorter, she has to like step all the way up to her knee each time. So it seems like a little bit unfair because Marion would have a way harder time to step over it than a taller person would.
I guess the like counterpoint would be like, oh, a taller person has a higher chance of like accidentally knocking into it just because they're taller and have more limb. And so it's like they might knock into it or something. But I don't know. I feel like that's the interesting thing because they did mention for a different immunity challenge this episode that like, oh, each of these was customized to you, but they didn't mention that for this challenge. So
yeah, didn't seem like it was separated by height, how the like rig was differentiated. So I guess sort of obvious. Phil wins though. He is going on a challenge beast run as we see throughout this cluster of episodes. And then Nico says, okay, Phil, you can either choose to go alone on this reward or you can take 2 people with you, but you don't get any food at this reward and you don't get the advantage for the next immunity challenge, but 2 people get to do the call with their loved ones as well. Where everyone is saying, Phil, you should take it for yourself, just go for it. I thought that was nice that people weren't necessarily trying to emotionally manipulate Phil into giving up the food and the advantage to bring 2 more people along.
yeah, I thought it was nice that everyone was saying like, oh, Phil, you can just go. But I also feel like if you're Phil, you have to know that they're not necessarily being like 100% truthful. Like, I'm sure they all would like to go and talk to their loved one. So yeah, I just
we saw in a later episode too, people were sort of smack talking Phil behind his back, like, oh, he was selfish. He took the reward just for himself. He didn't choose to bring 2 people along. But you can't fault him for that when everyone is saying, yeah, Phil, you go alone. Maybe Phil could be like, no, I'll bring 2 more people, but it's something like, you can't fault him for just going alone and doing it because he won the challenge fair and square.
You see, I thought the whole talk about like Phil being selfish, I thought that was more like contributing to Killarney's Dodo edit, where like she was like, oh, Phil is such a selfish player, and then whoever she was talking to was just like, yeah, he's so selfish. It's kind of like a way of like making her feel like she was being heard and making her feel like she was special, and not necessarily like actually believing that Phil was selfish.
Guess it could be maybe a small part of it. People are like, we don't really like Phil because he's winning everything, and I wish I could win those things. But I do wonder if it could be a thing where Phil could say, hey, Nico, I choose not to go on this reward. I would rather give everyone else the chance to go and speak to their loved ones. I wonder if he could pull that kind of deal, which it would be a nice thing to do, but it's a game and, people probably won't necessarily care that you gave up the chance to video call with your loved one and gave it to everyone else as a sacrifice. But it would have been interesting if someone tried to do that.
Yeah, I think part of it is there was also an advantage at stake, and I feel like that is kind of also a big element of why he wanted to go, because advantages are good. So
speaking of advantages, Taejin uses his outsurance reward advantage that he got previously from Meryl, and so he gets to go along with Phil as well. He also gets the food, the video call, and then the advantage as well. It 100% makes sense for Taejin to use it here.
Yeah, I feel like whenever you get a like not a steal a reward, but like we were talking when the US version did a steal a reward, that like this would be the reward that everyone would steal because everyone wants to like go and see their loved ones. And we were talking about how it's actually better that Taejin doesn't need to steal, he can just go along. So I feel like this was the obvious choice.
Yeah, especially if you're missing your family, if that's a huge motivator. Everyone was talking about their loved ones. You don't know if there is going to be a real in-life person family visit, so if you're not going to save it, 100% makes sense to use it here because this could be your only chance to speak to a loved one, especially because then we see Taejin get voted out at this episode. But I was sort of sad seeing everyone so emotional. They were all so sad about missing out with the video call. Dino going meta again, and he was talking about how he was sad because his loved one was probably just, waiting at the other end of a phone, waiting to see if she would be able to get the call. Other family members would be notified and they wouldn't ever call because they didn't win that reward. And so I thought that was really meta, and it sort of is really sad, similar to like families that fly out for the family visit and then their loved one gets sent home before the family visit, before they sent them to Ponderosa, so then the family could see them. It's like, dang, you did that whole trip for nothing because you never got to see your loved one.
You see, I feel like at least in that case, you like get a vacation. I feel like it would be much sadder to be like waiting for a Zoom invite that never comes or something like that. So
yeah, I guess so. You get a vacation. You need your work to give you the PTO to even go to Fiji. But I agree. Either way, it's just so sad. Oh, you took the time out of your day. You took the PTO to go and you don't actually get to see your loved one. You don't get to do this Zoom video call with your loved one. It's just got to be such a big bummer that like you wanted to see your person, but you couldn't. But at least, like Dino said, the person knows they had that communication. Hey, your person is still in the game at least. So you get a little bit of communication there where the loved one knows, hey, good for Dino. He's still in the game, even if I don't get to talk to him.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was so sweet how Taejin was so excited to see his dog. It's like, I wish that I was like as excited to see anyone as Taejin was to see his dog in the video call.
I wish they told us who the people were, though. Like, for Phil's call, he didn't really say who those people were. I guess you could assume, it's probably his wife and kids. But for Taejin's one, he said it was like his nieces and nephews who were the kids there. So it's like, if they didn't, I wish they had little placards of like, who is this that we're seeing on the screen?
It wasn't his nieces and nephews. It was
the sisters,
partners.
right?
His
Yeah.
partners, niece and nephew.
Yeah, so it's like we need some little placard there because it's like, oh, are those his kids? Who are these children?
Yeah.
But Phil and Tajan on this reward talk to their loved ones, and they also talk about some final three plans, thinking they could do Phil, Tajan, and Felix as a final three. And honestly, I feel like that would have been a good or fine final three if Phil kept with it. With the whole No BS Alliance crumbling in this cluster of episodes, I'm on the side that they should have stuck together.
I think it's more interesting that the No BS Alliance clustered, but the No BS Alliance crumbled. But I think that, like, for their gameplay, they should have stuck together, but for, like, the sake of it being a TV show, I'm glad that they didn't.
I agree. I think for gameplay, probably a better move considering who's still left in the game to win. But yeah, I guess for TV, it's better to see not just a group of people voting out everyone else. For other threats to win, we see Phil saying Dino and Marion are the biggest threats to win. I thought that was interesting. Good for Phil to realize because that's what we are seeing as the audience as well. Like we said last week, as the audience, we're seeing, oh, Marion and Dino are probably tier 1 to win the game. Phil, Shane, Felix are maybe tier 2, and then Killarney and Tajan are like tier 3 to win the game. And so we were saying that last week. So it's interesting to see Phil say it on the episode this week.
Yeah, I think it shows a level of, I guess, not meta knowledge, but a level of game awareness. Because I feel like it's one of those things where we talked about, like, oh, they were talking about goats and Killarney doesn't realize that she's being a goat. Whereas realizing, like, oh, these are the people who have a legitimate threat to win the game, who are actually legitimate threats, like, that's good. But also from the perspective of, despite knowing that those are the two biggest threats to win the game, neither of them were targeted to get voted out. That's bad. Because It's one of those things where, like, correctly acknowledging the threats is great, but not doing anything about it just kind of makes you look like a dodo. It's one of those things where, like, Killarney also talked about, like, Phil versus Felix. She would rather get out Phil, but then Felix was the one to go home. So it's kind of like it undermines you as a player if you have the wrong read on things.
And I think for Phil, this episode with the second vote out, we'll definitely talk about, what he's doing and maybe his poor reads in this cluster of episodes. We also see Dino saying Felix, Phil, Marion, and Shane. He thinks he might not be able to win sitting next to them, which is interesting because that's like basically everyone left besides Tajan and Killarney. And it was also interesting because, especially after last week where we hear Dino and Marion, and this week we hear those two repeat time after time saying how they would want to sit next to a big threat. They want someone who loves the game to win the game, that respects the game to win the game. They don't want to vote for certain people to represent this season. So it's interesting that Dino realized maybe I can't win next to certain people, but also maybe they're willing to sit next to someone they can't win against because of that whole representation for the season.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they talk so much about representation for the season, just because I feel like everyone kind of has a different idea of what good representation for the season looks like. Like, we've seen that Marion and Dino are on the same page, but, like, everyone else doesn't seem to really care as much. So that was just interesting because it was something that we noted last week where, like, Marion and Dino were both content to keep each other as big threats in the game because of that. And so that through line kind of carried through. So I feel like that's going to be something that we continue to see next week approaching the finale and the crowning of Soul Survivor, where I feel like Marion or Dino almost have to be one of the final two because of all of the hype that we're getting about, like, oh, we need someone to best represent our season.
Or it's going to be the opposite. And they keep on saying about this representation, and it's going to be someone they don't deem deserves to represent the season, which I wonder if people like Nicole or people, are watching and they're like, oh, are they talking about me? Like, I feel like when they're saying represent the season, they're probably referencing Tom and Nicole. And so are those past winners watching like, oh, why are we being slighted in this season? kind of thing? Are they like hurt by that? Because it's I don't know, like it's sort of rude. They're just like, this person didn't deserve to win, and that was like the previous season's winner, and like 2 seasons ago was winner.
Yeah, I guess it could also be seen as a dunk on like the winners of their respective seasons of like, oh, I don't think that person should have won, so I'm embarrassed to be associated with that season. So
yeah, so I guess Dino, it would be Nicole then.
yeah. And then I'm not sure who won Marion's season because I did not watch that.
Yeah, season 5 for Marion. We also see Marion lie, sort of twist the truth here and saying that Felix is coming for Dino, where Marion says that she wants Phil and Dino to herself, sort of similar, like splitting up Felix and Dante. It makes a lot of sense. Okay, if Phil and Dino are close to Felix, you try to vote Felix out, so then you can get Phil and Dino to yourself. It makes a lot of sense, where we also see Felix say he wants Marion out to try to get closer to Shane. We've seen this time and time again. If there's like 2 people working together, but you want that other person, you vote out their partner so you can get closer to that person that you want in your pocket versus having them to closer than you as the third wheel.
Yeah. So,
I think smart from both. You're trying to get rid of someone in a group or pair so you can swoop in and get their partner, especially right towards the end of the game. Makes a lot of sense, although didn't necessarily see it happen for Felix trying to maybe split up Marion and Shane here. We get to the immunity challenge, and you have to stand on your toes and you keep a block wedged above your head. So Phil and Tajan, because they went on the family video call reward, they get this advantage where they can start 5 minutes after everyone else, which I thought is a pretty big advantage, you know, unless you really suck at this challenge. Like Tajan couldn't even do it for a couple minutes. So I guess even though it is sort of an OP advantage, 5 minutes, if you suck and you can't do this challenge, then it makes it fair. It's an equalizer.
it's hard because it's like, how did they come up with the 5 minutes figure? I want to know. Like, did they look at like their test group and how long was in between the first place finisher and the second place finisher? Because I feel like 5 minutes is so arbitrary because there are some challenges in Survivor US that have lasted like 30 seconds. So it's like, what's going on here?
Exactly. Marion was out before the 5 minutes, so she was dropped before Tajan and Phil even started this challenge, and then Tajan drops out basically right after entering the challenge. So I did wonder, you know, Tajan says, "Damn my bald head." I wonder if having more hair helps you in this challenge because you have that cushion at the top of your head and it's like helping you balance the block up there versus without any hair cushioning, like you just have your scalp and it could be lumpy up there and it's harder to, you know, balance that block.
I was thinking about it in terms of friction. Like your hair has more friction than like smooth skin. So it would be easier for it to slip.
So you think having hair hurts?
No, I think it helps. Because
Okay.
your skin is smooth and slips versus your hair would like catch.
Yeah. And then if you're sweating, you know, if you're bald or have less hair, it's going to make the block more slippery than if you have hair between your like the sweat on your scalp. So I agree. I think maybe Tajan was on the money there where having less hair hurts you in this challenge.
Yeah, but I also feel like having hair probably wouldn't have made up the entire difference of how badly he did. So
Yeah, so even having this advantage, it's a more fair advantage, even though 5 minutes is a big time difference compared to other challenge advantages that we've seen that are just so OP and basically ensures 100% that you are going to win the challenge. This is more fair because it does take skill. And if you can't do the skill, you still can't win, even with that advantage.
I also thought, even though it wasn't designed this way, I thought 2 people getting the advantage was a good thing because then it's like you still have some sort of competition, even if everyone drops out before the 5-minute mark.
Yeah, so it's not so OP. Say everyone fell before 5 and Phil just won it automatically. That would be really crappy to watch. We get 10 minutes in and then they have to do like no holding the sides of the poles, just your toes and head. And it's between the No BS Alliance. These three are usually the last three people in these challenges, as we've seen. So it's between Dino, Felix, and Phil. And then it's down to Phil and Felix. And then I was just really pissed off. They cliffhangered on this. I was like, this is so lame. Why would you cliffhanger here? It's so dumb.
It doesn't even really, like, it matters who wins immunity, but it doesn't matter, like, that much. Like, I feel like there have been some times in Survivor where it's like, oh, if this person doesn't win immunity, then they're definitely going home, and, like, horrible, horrible, bad. There is no backup plan. But it's like, it doesn't really matter who wins because they have a backup plan no matter who wins. So
exactly. It's not like it was between the No BS and someone like Shane or Marion where, oh, if Shane or Marion won or someone there, and then, oh yeah, we'll vote Phil out. But it's like, if Phil wins, maybe they vote Felix out. They still have Tayshian to vote out. It's not like this is the person that they wanted to vote out and everyone else was in an alliance together that they would have to cannibalize one of their own. So it really it's no difference between Phil and Felix, really.
Yeah. So, but that's why it was a stupid cliffhanger.
Exactly. It reminded me of the Hourglass Twist cliffhanger in 41, and then I was just really pissed off. So, coming to Tuesday's episode 18, we see Phil wins this challenge. I was like, great. They made us wait all this time to see Phil win.
I only had to wait about 2 seconds since I binge watched it all, but...
Yes, I'm less angry in between those 2 seconds to see the outcome of this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But Phil wins, so still on that challenge beast tear. We go into episode 18, and this is a big idol finding episode. We see Felix see a symbol on a rock, but he's not quick enough to pick up the rock. Phil picks it up, and it's a hidden immunity idol clue. Feels bad for Felix, you know? He should have bent down and picked up that rock faster.
I thought it was so weird that Felix was like, oh, I just thought someone drew it in the sand. I was like, Felix? Like, what is going through your head where you see, like, your tribe symbol and you're like, oh, someone drew that in the sand for fun? Like, come on, dude.
Maybe he was drawing it in the sand for fun to trick other people. So we see Phil running through the woods, which I thought was really funny. Just like bolted away from Killarney and Felix, who saw him pick up the rock with the symbol on it, and then just runs, and the camera just pans. I was like, wow, the cinematography here, it's so funny. Phil is just running away. And then him looking for the idol is this whole long segment. It was sort of funny, but he was just really confused, couldn't figure out the clue. He was digging up all of the sand on the staircase, which sort of, I feel like, gave away the spot to look because he was digging in this one spot, even though other people may not have known that he had the clue at first. Then other people could be like, oh, why is he always digging here? Then we see Dino also digging there, even though he didn't get the clue shared with him at that point in time. So I don't know. Is that like a little bit of a blunder? You can't be digging so obviously that people start digging where you're digging.
I feel like you should only dig really obviously if you're digging in the wrong spot or if you're 100% confident you know what you're doing. Because it's like, Phil had no fucking clue where that idol was. Like, he kind of was just digging blindly. So
I guess it was on the staircase. He was just digging at the bottom. Then we see Dino digging at the bottom, but it seemed like he found it like halfway up the staircase digging. So
Phil didn't know that it was at the staircase, like, from the get-go. Like, we had, like, a whole 15-minute segment of him being like, I have no clue what this means.
So maybe a blunder in hindsight, considering he gave away where to dig to Dino, who could have easily found it. And I would be like, that would be so awkward if someone else found this without the clue after they saw you digging in a spot where maybe you didn't even know where the idol was and you just happened to give them that big clue.
Yeah. So I thought the interesting part about this was, I forget whether it was Felix or Phil, but one of them was mad about the fact that Killarney was with them when they found the idol clue. And it's like, bestie, you just spent forever digging in plain sight. Like, everyone knows you're looking for an idol. Like, you're not being slick. Everyone knows you found an idol clue.
Yeah, literally, Shane said later, "Oh, yeah, everyone's openly looking for idols, hee hee." So it feels bad. We also see here Killarney is getting dunked on with the edit again. We see Killarney saying, "Yeah, I think I'm going to get voted off because of the blindsides that I pulled off," and then cuts to like Felix and Phil laughing in confessionals, dunking on her in the edit. Then we also see Killarney tell Dino, "Hey, Phil found something. I was there with them when he found something." And then we see Dino, I feel like a theme throughout these 4 episodes, starting to get really paranoid with the No BS Alliance. Why wasn't I told about this clue? Why wasn't I told about this idol? Phil is trying to 3D chess me and pretend like he doesn't have the idol when he already has it. Killarney also tells Marion that Phil found a clue or found something in the sand, and then Marion approaches Phil, asks him straight up about it, and then Phil lies and said, "Yeah, the idol's at Outpost. I didn't find anything," which I thought was a bad move. I think you should just, if you're going to be called out like that straight up, you should just own up to it and give her some information rather than plain lie about it and have a bad lie about it.
Which is really weird too, because it seemed like Phil, Dino, and Marion were working together because they were all paranoid about Felix gunning for them. And it's like, if you really wanted to get Felix out this time, which it seemed like Phil did for at least a little bit, like, talk to the person who's helping you get Felix out. But then it seemed like he reneged on wanting to get Felix out, and that was a whole mess. But
yeah, it's just sort of weird. Like, Phil is making Dino paranoid, and then Dino's paranoid about this idol, and then he just straight up lies to Marion, who they have this secret alliance together, their season 5 secret alliance. And it's just like, Phil, you're causing a target more on your back. If someone is calling you out, they obviously have some information that was told to them, and you were already saying how Killarney is probably spreading this to everyone. You should just own up to it and say, "Yeah, I found something." You can say maybe, "Oh, I don't want to share," but you can say, "Yeah, I found an idol clue." And just maybe not make up such a bad lie, because they're going to know you're lying because Killarney already told her the truth about what she saw.
and also, like, saying that something is hidden at the outpost when, like, you don't even know how much longer the outpost is going to be in the game is kind of dumb, because it's like they know that the last time to use most advantages is final 6, and so it's like, if you find an idol clue that says something's at the outpost and you're not the one who goes to the outpost the next time to get that idol that's supposedly hidden there, like, you basically just, it's a useless clue. So it takes just basic logic to realize that it's not hidden at the outpost, even if Killarney hadn't already spilled the beans.
Yeah, because you would think, okay, the next time is Outpost. Phil knows that Dino has the save the date, so that's on 32. Then it's like, oh, Dino's going to get the idol because that's maybe the last time you can go to the Outpost, day 32. But after Killarney is spilling the beans to everyone, then we see Phil showing Dino the clue now, where Dino thinks Phil already found the idol because why would Killarney tell me about it? And now Phil is telling me about it to cover his tracks. That's a little bit sketchy in Dino's mind. Dino thinks that Phil is just telling him about the clue to build trust by showing the clue, which I get it. That makes sense. But I feel like Dino is big braining it too hard. He's going like too 3D chess into it, where Phil was legit just showing Dino the clue here because he couldn't find the idol. He was not trying to 3D chess move here.
Yeah, I feel like in Survivor, the simplest explanation isn't always the correct one. But also, if you need like 5 minutes to explain why your explanation is the correct one, that's probably not correct either. And the whole thing of like, oh, he's trying to build trust. Like, if he was trying to build trust, he would have just showed you the fucking idol. Like, come on.
It's big braining it. So Phil shows it to Dino because he wanted Dino's help to find the idol. Dino thinks, Phil, he's trying to big brain move, 3D chess, big brain move me. And he's trying to trick me into not thinking he has the idol. And he wants me to waste my time to look for the idol. Because I was like, Dino, you're making it too complicated. So Phil then goes off and he actually finds the second clue in the staircase, and it says that the idol is hidden at Tribal Council, hidden under the voting urn, and you have to pick it up next Tribal Council. Which
is kind of anticlimactic, I feel like, but whatever.
I thought it'd be funny if everyone got up and played their fake tribal council idols, because we still have, the Seamus idol, the like the Shona idol there. So imagine 3 people got up and played these idols, but 2 of them were fake, and then Phil got up and played the Urn idol that was real. I thought that would have been funny. We still haven't had any conclusion to the fake idols at Tribal.
I feel like next season they should plant like 5 different fake idols at Tribal just so it looks a little bit crazy. Like make the podium a fake idol, put another fake idol behind the urn, put a fake idol or put an idol underneath someone's seat. Like just put idols everywhere in the Tribal Council space just so that people like know to start looking there.
And then only one of them should be real, and then someone should get a clue that says, you have to find the real one. There's 10 hidden at Tribal. 1 in 10 shot.
Ooh, that would be fun. I feel like production starting to hide fake idols would probably annoy me, but it also would be kind of funny.
So because Phil is going to get this idol, you're not going to leave it there at the urn. Phil is probably going to be safe until Final 5 because he has this Final 7 immunity this episode. Final 6 is the last time that you can play this idol in South Africa. So Phil is most definitely probably going to be safe until Final 5, which in the next 2 episodes we do see is the case.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the bad things about introducing a new idol so late in the game, because it basically guarantees that you'll get to 5, which is not a lot of fun.
Which at least in SA, Final 5, 4, and 3, if it's supposedly going to be a Final 2, like they've done in SA for the past seasons, though Final 5, 4, and 3 are all regular votes, presumably no advantages can be played there, so it is just pure Survivor. I feel like we've talked so much about how we dislike in US Survivor, how you can basically pretty much go from like 7 to Final 3 if you have a couple advantages and maybe you win fire or you don't even get thrown into fire. It's just, I feel like a lot easier in US Survivor, that end game. So I like how here 5, 4, 3 are just pure Survivor votes. No funny business, no fire making, nothing weird there, and you have to do it based on strategy and your social game.
Which also I feel like inspires more like forward thinking than we see in US Survivor a lot, because like people were talking about like, oh, we need to get out Phil and Felix this time because they'll take each other in Final 4 and they'll take each other in Final 3, and like thinking about who you need to eliminate before Final 5 to make sure that you and your alliance will get to the Final 2 and that you will be one of the Final 2 instead of just like getting 4th or 3rd.
So with this advantage, this idol clue, I do wonder if this is the same clue that Marion gave up at Outpost to bring back the rice for her team. Like, is this the clue that she could have got last week, and this could be her idol that she found at Tribal Council? Because I also wonder, okay, was this idol, like, which came first? Is the idol hidden and you could find it without a clue at Tribal Council? It seems like no, because they wouldn't hide it until someone found the clue saying that it was at Tribal Council, because they sent Phil up to go vote first so he could pick it up. No one else had the chance of finding it or accidentally picking it up. So it seems like you need the clue in play in order for this idol to be hidden, because a lot of people last week were saying, yeah, Marion did the smart thing, pick the food to bring back to your camp because the idol is probably going to be hidden anyway. You could find it without a clue. It's not really a big deal to give up an idol clue because you could just find it randomly. But it does seem like if this is the same idol that Marion could have gotten the clue for, that Phil got the clue for, that the idol needed the clue to be placed into the game.
Yeah, because I feel like it wasn't even hidden in like a particularly difficult place. Like it was just behind the urn. And I feel like someone would have noticed it before then. So
exactly. So it seems like they hid it when someone got that second clue saying, hey, it's at Tribal Council. And because Phil found it, then he got to vote first. So no one could steal it by accident out from under him.
Yeah. So That was a wild and crazy time.
So we see Shane letting Felix know that Dino and Marion might be coming for him, and it seems like there are two Final Four scenarios being formed in this group of episodes. One Final Four being Felix, Tajan, Killarney, and Shane. Another Final Four being Shane, Marion, Dino, and Phil, where we also see Phil and Dino. They're sort of sad about flipping on the No BS Alliance. Felix is like, WTF is up with you guys? Trying to clear the air, trying to figure out all this miscommunication. And then Dino is sort of getting heat for spreading names now. We see Phil saying the No BS Alliance need to stick together, which I sort of agree. People are trying to split them up by spreading the misinformation, causing paranoia between the three of them. 3 people here is such a big voting block. This is, final 7 or is it final 8, the first one?
It's final 7. Because then the next one is final 6, and they were talking about final 5s.
Yeah, so final 7 here. I'm like, 3 people. That's such a big majority if you could keep together.
Yeah, it was difficult because eventually Tajan ended up going home, and I was very confused about who flipped where and who voted the way they said they'd vote and who didn't, and who was just lying about where they said they were voting and always was intending to vote that way. Because, I was under the impression that both Shane and Phil were going to vote for Felix, but then they both voted for Tajan instead. And I was like, WTF, guys. I don't know if I was just misinterpreting or if they did flip their votes last minute.
I guess I'm a little bit confused there as well. In the episode, we see they break down the votes. One of the plans was to vote Felix out, where they say Dino, Shane, Marion, and Tajan are voting Felix out. And Tajan says, this is dumb because Marion and Dino, why aren't we targeting them? Why are we voting for Felix? And then the other plan was to vote Tajan out, where they say Felix, Phil, Killarney are the votes, and then Dino is the swing vote. And then we see Dino and Killarney talking about this, where, he's a swing vote. Could he go either way? So it was a little bit confusing there, I feel like. We also see Tajan creating a fake idol, which I was like, good for him. He engraves the symbol into the rock. And I was like, it looks like a pretty good fake idol. Good for him, trying to go out swinging.
Yeah, I thought the rock engraving was really cool. It's not something I feel like people do often. And I want to know how he, did that, but okay.
So he pulls this out at tribal council. Marion and Dino whisper that's a fake idol. And I feel like if you're going to play this fake idol bluff, pulling the idol out at tribal council is more of an obvious bluff versus if you did like what Dante did, where you start spreading the seeds at camp, saying, yeah, I found something. Maybe I have an idol. Maybe I have advantage. That's better. So then people can switch their vote preemptively, trying to not vote for you, to not get idled out of the game, allowing more time for people to strategize. Because I feel like when you do it right at tribal council, people don't have enough time to switch their plans if they're afraid of voting for you because their plans are already in place and maybe they're already splitting the vote.
To be fair, I feel like we saw a lot of bluffs this series of episodes. Marion did her whole I have an idol nullifier bluff, but that didn't really change anything because Phil was already going to play his idol on Dino anyway. So it's kind of like very rarely I feel like do bluffs work out the way that you expect them to, because Marion probably considers her bluff successful because Phil played his idol not on Felix, but Phil didn't play his idol differently because of the bluff. And I feel like Tajan's bluff also didn't really change anything. So it's kind of like, I feel for Tajan though, because it's kind of like he went out swinging, which I feel like some people didn't necessarily do. So it was good to see he knew he was going out and he tried not to go out, but in the end he just couldn't seal the deal, so to speak.
So that's why I feel like with a bluff, you should start spreading the seeds of doubt back at camp. So then maybe your bluff will work like the Dante bluff rather than doing it at tribal where the plans are already set. And I agree. It was, at least he went out swinging. People might just sit down and die and get voted out, but he went out swinging. He stands up about to play this idol. He looks back as a show and says, I saw the reactions and I think I'm safe. So I think I'll use and save this idol for next time. So I thought that was a good move because, Final 6 would be the last time that he could play the idol. So next episode, next tribal council, if Taejin wasn't voted out here, that bluff could have gotten people afraid to vote for him next time if he didn't win immunity. So it could have saved him until Final 5.
I feel like part of it was, though, everyone saw like Phil's frantic idol search, so I feel like Taejin being like, oh, by the way, I also have an idol, would have felt kind of out of place even if he did do it back at camp. So
yeah, Marion and Dino did that whisper saying it was fake, so it could also be perception. People just don't believe Taejin. So that could also play a factor into bluffing. If people just think, you're a chucklehead, they're not going to believe you, and they might just think you're lying all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So Taejin gets voted out. Felix votes. The people that vote for Felix are Marion, Dino, and Taejin. So it's 3 versus 4 votes for Taejin, Phil, Shane, Killarney, and Felix. We get this confessional from Shane saying, if you were voted out, I didn't mean it. Something went really wrong. So that's part of the confusion, I guess. Was Shane supposed to vote for Felix? And did he flip his vote to vote for Taejin? It does seem like the vote got messed up because we also see Phil at the voting urn saying, I'm flipping my vote to vote for Taejin to flush his idol.
Yeah, I don't know what went on there, and they didn't really explain it afterwards, but in any case, Taejin went home.
Yeah, so I do wonder if this is a thing like the Shona vote where Phil just flips his vote at tribal council because of his nerves or being nervous about the plan, but it doesn't really make much sense because why flip your vote when it's like a 4-3 vote, first of all? And you don't need to flip your vote to flush an idol because you don't necessarily need all the votes to be on Taejin. You just need to make Taejin think that he's getting all the votes so he will play the idol if it were real, and then that would flush the idol. You don't need the person to have the most votes. Like Felix could have still had the most votes, but you freak Taejin out enough that he still plays the idol and then wastes it. So it doesn't necessarily make sense to flip to make Taejin get more votes.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that either. Who knows?
So it was really awkward back at camp the morning after. We see Phil pretending like he was always voting for Taejin and never voting for Felix, trying to do like a Natalie Anderson, oh, I messed up the vote. But people are like, WTF, what happened here? Why was Taejin voted out? Who flipped? And people are like, yeah, it's probably Phil.
Yeah. It's fine. We're fine.
Which I thought it's smart to, though. You want to keep the No BS Alliance in if you're in it rather than keeping Taejin in, because I think Felix said it in the next episode. It's the devil you know rather than the one you don't. Even if you don't have a lot of trust within the No BS Alliance right now, at least try to work together to try to get a little bit further rather than with Taejin, who you haven't really been working with. A lot of people have said he just flips to wherever the numbers are. He could easily do that with you and flip back to the numbers, the majority, with whatever suits him more. So even though it was a messed up vote and Taejin got voted out, I think it should have helped them in the long run, keeping the No BS Alliance together.
It should have, but I felt like the cracks in the No BS Alliance were already there. So it kind of just delayed the inevitable. Because I feel like the fact that Phil was willing to like court Taejin at all kind of showed that he wasn't really in with the No BS Alliance for the long haul. Because it's like, if you have a solid 3, why are you then going off and making a 2 with someone else?
Exactly. It should have helped them in the long run, but because we get 4 episodes a week, didn't really help them in the long run after these next 2 episodes. Nico ends this episode saying goodbye to everyone, and he says, hunting season is officially on and everyone is fair game. And I love that ending. I thought that was a good like twist on play on words.
Yes. Yes, it was.
So we get to episode 19, starting with this reward challenge. They get split into teams of 2, and you have to maneuver bean bags, and then you have to land these bags in little baskets at the end. And if you win a spa day reward. So much fun. So the teams are split as Shane and Killarney, Felix and Phil, Dino and Marion, which Was the challenge algorithm making these splits? Because I was like,
I was going to say, this felt extremely rigged.
I think I thought so too. Even though Nico said, "Oh, you're gonna draw rocks for teams," I was like, "This looks like production did
them
this."
Draw rocks. We did not see the vessel from which they had to draw rocks. We did not see the rocks themselves. There's so many opportunities for rigging it. So
I know, it just felt like such production. Felix and Phil being together, okay. Dino and Marion being together, I was like, the challenge algorithm made this because you could not write like better partners than this for potential like drama or scheming or planning to happen.
But I think it's funny because everyone else was like, we do not want both Felix and Phil going on this reward challenge together, and that is exactly what happened. But then as soon as Felix and Phil are on the reward challenge together, they're like, actually, this is the best case scenario where all four of us who hate them get to plot together without them being around.
I know. I was like, what kind of TV scripted is this? This is just too good to be true. I also thought in this challenge where there was different strategies to like crawl and like push the sandbags forward in the net. Some people were like going on their back, going backwards, like pushing like this. And then Dino and Marion were like humping the ground, hitting the bags with their back. It was just so funny. So you're not amused.
I mean, I feel like this set of episodes also annoyed me because I felt like it should have just been one episode. So even the stuff that I found funny, I was kind of like, is this necessary? And the answer is no. I would have liked to see both of these just be one episode together.
We'll have to go through what's the best strategy to bump beanbags under a net to make them move forward, you know, on your back or facing the ground and hitting them with your back. It's the next evolution of Survivor strategy here.
Obviously, that's one of the things we should test the next time we do a Survivor challenge.
Exactly. Like how to, you know, successfully crawl through sand with your hands tied and your legs tied. That's also the worm challenge. So, like you said, Phil and Felix win this reward. I guess it's sort of good because Phil and Felix are like the underdogs now. So, if you like rooting for the underdogs, you'd want them to win to be safe, to mess up everyone else's plans. So, the majority would have to vote out one of each other. The spa day, all the food looks really, really good. I wish I were there. And then we see Phil and Felix say that Shane is a threat. We should vote Shane out. But then in confessional, Phil says, I'm not happy with Felix. I've caught him lying multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like catching someone lying in the game of Survivor is kind of like, it's gonna happen. If you expect someone never to lie to you, like, you're just gonna be disappointed. So
yeah, I feel like I wonder if Phil is too hung up on this like Felix lying thing, because even when Phil votes Felix out in the next episode, in the end confessional, Phil is saying, I gave you like 3 different chances to confess or tell me the truth, but you never told me the truth. So I don't know, it's sort of weird, I feel like.
I feel like it's also like it seems like in the preview for the next episode, Phil gets really like stick up his butt about the fact that Dino didn't trust him to play the idol for him. And it's like, bestie, you lied to this man for like ever about this idol in the first place. So, you know,
too much bad communication between the no BS trio. The spa day also, I was like, why did they include that shower scene with the leaf right over their butt? That was just TMI. They should have just not included that.
Yeah, I looked away because I was uncomfortable.
I was like, oh, the first one caught me by surprise. And I was like, okay. And then the second one, I was like, why you gotta do it for both? Like, one is too much. This is inappropriate. So back at camp, it seems like it's going to be Shane, Marion, Dino, and Killarney as a foursome versus Phil and Felix on the outside. People are saying that Phil is currently the bigger threat between Phil and Felix because Phil is good at challenges. And then we see Marion looking through Phil's bag, and then they find the idol. Like, legit. I was very confused because Phil, why would you leave the idol in your bag? And then why would you leave all of your clues in your bag?
More importantly, why leave your bag at camp? Like, wouldn't you want to bring your bag with you to a reward challenge?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you don't have that many personal belongings. Why don't you just keep them
Especially,
on you?
like, a reward challenge, especially one where you have, like, clean water. Like, use some of your shower water to, like, clean your clothes, too. It's fine.
It was just so bad. You leave the
Yeah.
whole entire idol there, and then you leave all of the notes, not just one note, but like the whole tray of notes,
And it's
which
not
gave
even, like, hidden well. Like, at least have, like, a secret pocket in your backpack or something.
yeah, it basically gave everyone else all of the information that they needed to create plans around this idol. Because, okay, say you left the idol in there, people were confused because this idol didn't look like the previous idols. It looks like a metal bracelet. So maybe you could trick people. This is just my like personal item. This is just a bracelet I have. It has a lot of meaning to me. You might get away with that. People might be confused and not think it's an idol because it doesn't look like the other idols this season. But then leaving the notes in there, you're like, come on. Now you know it's an idol and they know it can be played until Final Six. They know it's a regular idol. It's not like a super idol or anything like that. And so, like, now, Phil, you can't even lie and say, yeah, I can play this idol after the votes are read or something to scare people. They all legit know it's just the regular idol.
Yeah. I do sometimes wonder why people keep those notes. Like, unless it's a special idol where, like, you need to double check the exact wording of the note to make sure that you're not about to, like, fuck up your entire gameplay. Like, eat the note or something so that people don't, like, have confirmation that it's an idol. So.
They keep it as a souvenir. Frame it when they go home. But I agree. Should have hit it. Yeah, you can't just leave it in your bag and leave your bag at camp. Like two bad things there. And then they come back from this reward, and then we see Phil telling Dino about the idol at nighttime, which is a little bit too late because Dino, with the idol clue, already thinks Phil is being sketchy. And now, because Dino already knows that Phil found this idol and all of the clues surrounding the idol, Dino knows all this information. So it's like you can't trick someone who knows all the information already. They're just going to think you're sketchy.
Exactly.
So Dino tries to tip Phil off, saying, hey, did you leave your bag today at camp? And Phil does not get what Dino is putting down, doesn't think that maybe people went through his bag while he was away. And then Phil threatens Dino and says, if anyone knows about the idol, I'm going to know you told people because you're the only person I told.
Yeah, that was just... I feel like Dino can't, like, directly tell Phil, like, oh yeah, everyone looked through your bag, especially because it's still unclear whether or not Dino and Phil, like, want to work together. But I feel like if I was Dino, I would feel, like, morally good about myself for, like, trying to tip Phil off, but I wouldn't cry at night that he didn't realize what I was putting down.
Dino tried his best. Phil did not pick up the clues. Sort of like Russian roulette between the two of them. It's like Dino knows all the information, but Phil is trying to give Dino information. But then because Dino knows, he thinks Phil is sketchy, similar with the idol clue. And then Dino's trying to like 3D big brain chess move it and make it so Phil is more sketchy than Phil really is. But it just, you know, Phil is just legit trying to keep you as an ally, Dino. But Dino thinks that Phil is trying to trick him.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of when you knew that the No BS alliance was over, because Dino is, like, overthinking so much of what Phil does that Phil is, like, trying to do in good faith. Like, same thing with the idol thing, so.
Exactly. Phil was legit level 1 playing the game, and then Dino was trying to do like big boss. I'm on the last level of the game trying to play with you.
I feel like this paranoia is what got Dino voted out the first time, right? Because he was trying to, like, do crazy things, and it was just like, no, that's not what's happening. So I feel like it's a good thing that they're, like, in the late stage game where paranoia is more justified, because otherwise he would just look straight up crazy.
Yeah, so Dino, he has the save the date outpost advantage. Nobody tried to vote him out to get the legacy part of the advantage and get him to pass down the advantage to them to get sent to outpost. But Dino's still in the game. It's day 32. Dino goes to outpost and he won a vacation. Woohoo! And an extra vote, which is good until final 5. I thought this presentation of Dino winning the vacation was funny because it was like a whole ad on the TV screen. I thought
With like
save the date.
Nico voiceover.
I thought save the date would mean, okay, his fiance would maybe be there or she would be on the TV, another like video message or call or something. But it was literally Nico voiceovering this vacation. It was sort of, I was like, what is this? This is funny.
Yeah. I would like it if Nico was just like actually there, like standing over Dino's shoulder as they watched the slideshow together, because that would have been funny. But
yeah, Dino's lie was fine though. He's going to lie and say it was a video from home. Save the date makes sense. You would think, okay, save the date, wedding invitation. It's a loved one call or like voice message, something. But people think he's lying, of course, and think that he does have some kind of advantage. Dino, such a lucky guy. He won a car and now he's won a vacation. I'm like, I need some good karma like Dino has. He's winning all the good things.
yeah, it's interesting just because I feel like that's too many like advantages all in one. Like I feel like the save the date should have been either the extra vote or the vacation, not both. I don't like it when it's kind of like double good things. That doesn't seem fair.
It seems like they had this sponsor. Okay, I guess whoever sponsored this vacation, they said, yeah, you have to give it away as a reward. Similar like the car was probably a sponsorship, you know, the outsurance advantage and food and stuff. So it seems like, okay, we have this vacation. Do we want to give it away in a reward challenge or what? So they gave it away here.
It's fine.
You got to get that sponsorship money. Although I was just so distracted by the ad that we don't even know the sponsor's name. So maybe it wasn't a good presentation.
I will say I still have no idea what Future Life is, but I do know its name.
See, a good marketing, good advertising there. So Dino goes back to camp and he tells this lie to everyone. And then, like a lot of people do, they break off and they go and tell the people that they're closer with the truth about what was actually at the outpost. So you can gain that trust. So you know, hey, you're my number one, whatever. But then Dino goes to Phil and then he lies again about his supposed truth about what happened at the outpost. And he says that he got to practice something for tomorrow's immunity challenge. And that's what really happened. And I was, you know, not telling the full truth before, which I was like, Dino's still trying to play too much and try to lie about something like, I don't know, an extra vote versus getting to practice the immunity challenge. I'm like, just don't tell Phil anything.
Yeah. Don't tell Phil anything. It just, they were just so paranoid around each other. So
that Russian roulette, they're both, you know, they got both of their guns raised and they're both trying to outsmart the other person. It's sort of confusing too, because then I'm like, how do we as the viewer know who's lying and who's telling the truth or who's just tricking the other person right now?
mm-hmm.
So then Dino tells Killarney and Shane the real advantage, and he tells them that he got an extra vote. So lied to Phil and said it was about getting to practice immunity, and he tells Killarney and Shane the truth, which then we see Phil saying and trying to like taunt Dino when the tree mill comes the next day about the immunity challenge, which I thought was funny. So maybe Phil didn't believe that Dino actually got to practice something.
Yeah, it didn't seem that way. But I don't know. Just like the whole like Dino Phil thing, I was just mildly uncomfortable with it because it just seemed like neither of them wanted to be around each other, and I don't like watching that kind of interaction.
They'll be forced to be together next time because after all this, it seems like they might both be on the bottom. So we got to episode 20. Immunity challenge. They have to throw a ball into a chute and then they catch it on the other side, dig under a log, and then they have to complete a puzzle at the end. Similar, like we said before, with the Ben challenge, the throwing the ball part reminded me of Heather from season 41, Survivor US, not being able to catch the ball in this part of the challenge, and Jeff being like, Heather, you can do it. And then the puzzle for this challenge was very similar to the Evie puzzle that they said they memorized, and Jeff said it wouldn't ever come back to the US because people are memorizing it.
I do wonder if this is another one of those things where being shorter is a disadvantage, because like I noticed that Marion and Killarney were the two people who are having like the hardest time with the ball part of the challenge, and it's like, yeah, if your legs are shorter, it's going to be more difficult to run the entire length of the thing in time. So
I wrote that in my notes too. I 100% think this challenge, that first part with the stepping over the ropes and trying to catch the ball after it goes through the chute, is harder for shorter people. They need to, like, you can't have the ropes the same height, because if you're shorter, it's going to be slower for you to hop step all of them, that you're never going to make it by the time the ball lands at the end of the chute. So like we saw the two women, smaller legs, they never got one ball. And I was like,
Marion got one ball, she didn't get two.
yeah, it's like it's just sort of unfair, because if they can't even get out of that first part of the challenge, and you're going to get more tired and more gassed the more times you have to throw the ball up and run through the little obstacle course, you might never get a ball. You know, you're never going to get out of this part of the challenge, which is sort of unfair.
I do wonder like who they use to test these challenges, because I feel like it's one of those things where like, oh, people say that like a lot of medications don't work as well on women because all like drugs are tested with like men as their test subjects, or that was like historically the way that things were done. And so I wonder, it's like, are they just using like tall guys to test these challenges? Like I feel like if you're going to have like a Survivor dream team that tests your challenges for you and make sure that the challenges are good to be run, you should have someone on the dream team who is roughly equivalent to every member of your cast. Like have someone who is as short as Marion or as short as Killarney, or have someone who's like as big as like Scott Pollard, and see if the challenges become like significantly more difficult or easier for one of those people just based on their height. Because it's like, yeah, some people are naturally going to be more athletic. You're always going to have a challenge beast. But if the challenges aren't designed so that anyone can be successful, you have a problem. And I feel like the fact that the two women were the only two people who like couldn't even get past the first part means that the challenge was possibly poorly designed.
I agree. And then Nico is shouting at Marion and Killarney, saying, "You gotta hustle, you gotta go faster. Like, why can't you get the ball?" I was like, oh, that's a little bit like patronizing, because there's just some things that are impossible that they can't do with their shorter legs, especially after they've done it 10 or 15 times, similar to like Heather not being able to ever catch the ball and Jeff yelling at her. It's like, you know, Marion and Killarney could do this 100 times and maybe catch the ball once. And you're going to get more tired when you go through it. It's not just like, yeah, hustle more and you can catch the ball. It's like, it's sort of hard when you have shorter legs to high step all of those things fast enough and then catch the ball at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So we see all of the men make it to the second, third part of the challenge. They get to the puzzle. We see Phil win the puzzle again. Very dangerous. He has 3 immunity challenge wins and 2 reward wins. Now, Phil's stock, I feel like, has risen this week with all of the challenge wins, where maybe now, you know, tier 1, it's Phil, Marion, and Dino. Tier 2, Shane, Felix. Tier 3, Killarney, going into the last week.
Yeah, I feel like right now the top 2 are definitely Marion and Dino. And Phil, I feel like his stock has risen, but I still feel like there's a very large gap between him and Marion and Dino, just because being a challenge beast, I feel like, isn't as well looked upon if you're not also strategic. And we kind of shot on Phil earlier for making a couple of strategic blunders. So,
which we see more of in this episode. They have some plans for tribal council where Dino, Marion, and Shane say, okay, even though Killarney's in this foursome with us, we need to split the vote on her because Phil has immunity. We're going to split on Felix and Killarney. where we will vote Killarney will vote Felix, and then, Felix and Phil will do their thing. Dino says, y'all, let me do my thing. I'm going to go to Phil and figure out what Phil is doing with this idol. Is he going to play it on Felix? Is he going to play it on me? Dino says he doesn't trust the No BS Alliance more, but Phil still seems like he is down to ride with Dino, at least. He doesn't seem down to ride with Felix after the spa reward and all of the lying that Felix is supposedly doing to Phil. But Phil says, yeah, he still potentially wants to work with Dino. Phil says he wants to play his idol for someone, aka Dino, but Phil says he also wants to vote Dino out next. And then I wrote in my notes here, I also think Dino is going to 3D chess here because he thinks Phil is trying to trick Dino with the idol and saying, oh yeah, Dino, I'll play the idol on you, where Dino is thinking that's a trick. And Phil is actually going to play the idol for Felix. So we need to vote Killarney, put more votes on Killarney so Felix and Phil's vote doesn't be the way that the vote goes. Which I was like, that's too many steps.
I watched the entire episode and my eyes kind of glazed over hearing you explain Dino's logic because it makes so little sense. And I feel like for Phil, it's kind of like you can't really work with Dino without working with Felix unless you want to go full on into working with the Marion Shane alliance. And I feel like he isn't willing to do that either. And so it's kind of like, dude, I feel like Phil has kind of backed himself into a corner and he's definitely on the bottom now.
Yeah, it was sort of confusing because everyone was playing each other. Everyone is lying. Sort of hard to figure out, okay, what's the truth and what is a fake truth for the plans going into Tribal Council. So at Tribal Council, Marion pulls out this fake idol nullifier. The jury seems very, very impressed. They're all smiling oh my gosh, y'all. And then I thought, okay, Marion, that's good. She's putting on a good show for the jury. They are eating it up and they're probably maybe going to be even more impressed if she tells them that it's fake at a potential final Tribal Council situation. So even though it is fake, I feel like Marion did a good job here because she's putting on a show and it seems like the jury liked it.
Yeah, and I mean, it was revealed that it was fake in that same episode, so it wasn't something where people will be mad at her later about it. They already know that it was fake. Because Nico said, oh, there's no idol nullifier in here, so...
So Dino uses his extra vote to vote at Tribal Council, which seems like next week Phil is going to be mad at, yo, bro, why didn't you trust me? Phil gets up and he says, I'm going to play this idol, and he plays it on Dino, which I wonder, like we've been talking about with Phil and these blunders, will the jury think Phil is dumb for keeping Dino in the game, playing it on Dino? Because it does seem like with all of the jury whispering, they think Dino's a big threat. We see Dante literally from the jury saying, take out Dino, doing all of the hand motions and whispering, take out Dino from the game. So
I definitely don't think that the jury is going to reward Phil for keeping Dino in the game, especially because Dino is, if it was a Dino Phil final two, Dino would win. And so I feel like it's one of those things where I think maybe the only person who could get away with keeping Dino in the game would be Marion, because she's one of the only people who has a comparable resume to him as far as strategy wise, social wise. So I feel like it's one of those things where the jury definitely, I don't think, will reward people for keeping Dino in the game.
Exactly. So I think it could be another potential big blunder if Phil makes it to the end of the game where they're like, why did you keep the biggest threat in the game? Why are you keeping Dino in the game? Why would you play the idol for him? That was a really bad move. Where maybe Phil should have just played the idol for Felix, but with all of Phil just doesn't like Felix anymore. So Phil probably wouldn't have done that. But yeah, I think this was a blunder. He was trying to do a big show. Yeah, I want that on my resume. I saved someone by playing the idol for them. Similar to Marion, I want, this show at jury, at Tribal Council to show the jury I have this plan, fake idol nullifier. But I feel like Phil's plan to play the idol on someone, especially playing the idol on a big threat, is not a good look.
It's not a good look, especially because he didn't even need the idol played on him. So it's kind of like if you save one of your biggest allies at a pivotal moment by playing the idol for him, that looks good on you. But if you just randomly play an idol on someone who doesn't need the idol, especially if that person isn't really beneficial to your game, it makes you look like a fool.
Exactly. And I do wonder, like with Dante's, all of his like suggestive messaging, is this not jury interference? Like he's literally showing Shane and Marion vote out Dino. And then, okay, Shane and Marion see that. They're going to think, okay, the jury wants Dino out. Maybe Dino's a front runner to win this game. It just seems a little bit unfair because the jury needs to be silent. You can't be like having these voice messages from the jury to the people still in the game.
Yeah, so I wonder if Dante got a talking to about that, because I feel like that could definitely be, if you're Dino and you get voted out, you could then point to that and, like, I don't know, sue the network or something. Be like, actually, I wouldn't have gotten voted out if not for Dante. So,
which I sort of want to see Dino make it to final two just to see like Dante's head explode. And then hear all of Dante's questioning to them at Final Tribal Council. Because it's like at that point, Dante's been saying for years, we need to vote Dino out. Dino's the biggest threat to win the game. If Dino makes it to the end, Dante has to reward that, right? He can't just like be mean and vote for the other person after he said how such a big threat Dino is. Like you have to vote for him at that point, even if you don't like him.
yeah, it just, whatever. It's fine.
I just want to see it happen. So we see the votes. It is a 3-3 tie, 3 for Killarney, 3 for Felix here. And then they go for a revote. Sort of sad. If Felix voted for Killarney instead of voting for Shane, he could have technically saved himself by having 4 Killarney, 3 Felix. Or 2
Why
Felix.
did Felix vote for Shane? Like that also, did I miss something about that? Because I felt like I never heard Shane's name as like a legitimate possibility.
Maybe from the spa day when Phil and Felix were saying Shane's a threat, maybe they were playing Felix by saying, yeah, we're voting for Shane. And maybe the No BS Alliance said, yeah, the plan is Shane. So that's why he voted Shane. But yeah, I guess it wasn't necessarily explicitly said, but he could have saved himself technically because Dino played that extra vote as well. If Felix didn't vote for Shane and voted for Killarney, there wouldn't have ever needed to been a revote.
Sucks to suck.
Yeah, Felix is voted out, and then hopefully next week we see Killarney be mad. She got 3 votes. She knows her alliance split the vote on her, so she's the bottom of that 4-person Shane, Marion, Killarney, Dino alliance. I hope she wants to do something big maybe next week, because it's like, yo, you're in this alliance and they split the vote on you. You can't just be the bottom of this alliance. So I hope she does something about it.
Me too, because it seems like Killarney is constantly getting shafted by even the people who claim to be in her alliance.
So next time we go into the finale. Woohoo! So it seems like 4 episodes next week. We'll do final 5, final 4, final 3, and then the final 2, all of the Final Tribal Council would be next Thursday's episode, the finale episode. So we're going into 5 people next week. I feel like the No BS Alliance needs to split up Shane and Marion, which I feel like was a bad move here to vote out Felix over trying to vote out, I guess you would vote out Shane, because Phil and Dino are closer to Marion. Because Felix goes home here. You have Dino, Phil, Shane, Marion, and Killarney left in the game. Phil maybe wins immunity again. We'll say that. And then if Phil is safe when Felix went home this episode, Dino probably goes home first. But if you sent Shane home here, next week it would be Dino, Phil, Felix, Marion, and Killarney going into the final 5. There's more options, because even if Phil does win immunity, Dino maybe wouldn't be the vote, because you could still vote out Killarney or Felix. I just feel like you needed to vote out Shane or Marion here at the final 6.
I feel like the thing is, if you still consider Phil and Dino to be the 2 remaining members of the No BS Alliance, and you consider Shane and Marion to be an alliance because they are, then it all depends on where Killarney goes. And I feel like the problem that people are having maybe is that a lot of them aren't really treating Killarney as like a player worth like spending time cultivating a relationship with. Like they're treating her like a goat and kind of yanking her around like one. And I feel like that's going to come back to bite people, because it may be that where Killarney votes determines who gets out at Final Five, and then who gets out at Final Five determines which of the two alliances will be like triumphant, I guess. Because if Dino goes home, Marion almost certainly wins if she gets to the final two. And so I feel like the problem right now, as I see it, is in this final five, there are two people who would make really satisfying winners, two people who would make okay winners, and then one person who would be kind of like a what the fuck winner. And so, like, if the two people who would be really good winners get voted out, then the season is kind of going to be meh at the end, which is something they may have been like foreshadowing this whole time with Marion and Dino's whole, like, we want to be a good representative of our season thing. So, because I feel like if either Marion or Dino gets to the end without the other one, they have it in the bag. If Marion and Dino get to the final tribal council together, it depends on which one of them gives a better final tribal performance. And so I feel like for Marion, it was a really good choice because it kind of like points to Dino as the next one out. And if she gets Dino out, that basically guarantees if she gets to final two, she wins. So for Marion, it was a good move, but I'm not sure how good of a move it was for anyone else. Mostly just because for everyone else, it doesn't really matter, because they need to get both Marion and Dino out to have a chance at winning.
Yeah, like I feel like for the No BS Alliance here, you want to keep Felix and you want to split up Shane or Marion so they have one less number going into the final five. But because that hasn't happened, it might give Shane and Marion a leg up going into the final five. And I feel like specifically for Phil and Dino going into next week, they're the two biggest targets to be voted out. Like you want to go to final five where you're sort of like the third most best person to win the game, because you want two people ahead of you that are more threatening than you. So you vote them out 5-4, you go to final three, final two. Like in US Survivor, that's the way you want to do it. But now for Phil and Dino, they don't really have people, more threatening than them because they voted Felix out, even though you might say, yeah, Felix won't win the game, but people have that perception for some reason that he's super threatening. So you want to keep him in so he can be easy final five, final four fodder. You can easily vote him out there rather than voting out the big threat now. So I think for the No BS Alliance, I can see Phil and Dino, they're going to go home 5-4.
The thing is, people never saw Felix as a bigger threat than Phil. Everyone said that they would rather get Phil out over Felix, but Phil won immunity. So I feel like it's not even a thing of like, oh, Phil and Dino like don't have someone more threatening than them, because Felix was never more threatening than Phil. It's just that Phil won the immunity challenge. And I feel like if Phil hadn't won immunity, then he would have gone home in Felix's place. So
yeah, I guess maybe not more threatening, more like people are willing to vote Felix out when he's not safe versus, say, Phil could easily go on an immunity run, but Dino hasn't had safety. People aren't willing to vote him out. No one said his name thus far. Same like with Marion. She hasn't been safe. So it's like you want those people that people are willing to vote out. But now, like, you have these people. I feel like Phil needs to win out. If he wants to win the game, he needs to keep winning immunities. Otherwise, the first time he doesn't win individual immunity, he's probably going to go home. Similar with Dino, if he doesn't win immunity, like, I just think like there's no one more threatening than Dino. And are people going to turn on Marion? I don't think so. It seems like Marion is pretty much good with everyone. So for Phil and Dino, I don't think they set themselves up to end game the game well.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what they could have done to set themselves up, because their problem was actually several steps ago by letting Dino and Marion get this far. It's one of those things where like you kind of realize that you're screwed up too late to fix it. So
yeah, I guess the problem for Dino and Phil was the No BS Alliance crumbling. Like if they could have kept Felix and those three together, maybe they could have flipped with Tajan to vote out Shane or Marion, and then they voted out Tajan at final 6, and then they go 3 No BS Alliance, 2 is Killarney and Marion, and so they have that numbers advantage maybe. So it seems like this week, like we said at the beginning, it's the crumbling of the No BS Alliance, which I think they messed up their end game, and it can be very, very hard for Phil or Dino to make it there. Because I wonder though, like, are people nervous? Dino, Phil, Killarney, do they have a pre-merge alliance going on? Would Killarney flip to work with Dino and Phil next episode to try to split up Shane and Marion potentially? Is Dino not nervous that there's a season 5 alliance going on and he could be the person going out at 5? Because Phil, Marion, Killarney, and Shane are all from the same original season together. Is that not worrisome for Dino? So I don't know. It's like questions there. If there's a pre-merge alliance and it's Dino, Phil, Killarney, and they're going to vote Shane or Marion out at Final 5 to split them up, okay, then, maybe they did set themselves up for Endgame well. But from what we've been seeing, Dino and Phil are having a little bit of a fight, but maybe they're able to come back together because they need to out of necessity, and they're willing to put aside their differences because they need to work together now. But I'm like, yeah, how can you not split up Shane and Marion?
Yeah. I guess final predictions. What do you think is going to happen next week? Because I kind of said my piece. But I'm curious, what's your read on the finale?
Yeah, so I think, Phil and Dino, whoever doesn't win immunity would go at 5, and then the other one would go at 4. And then I think final 3 would be Shane, Killarney, Marion. Honestly, I could see Shane and Killarney being the final 2.
Yeah, and I feel like that would be kind of an unsatisfying ending, but, it is what it is. I think next week we'll definitely start with some confessionals where people lay out what their plan is for the finale week. So maybe that will change our minds Monday night watching that.
What were your thoughts? Who's going home 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
I don't necessarily know who's going home 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but I know that if Dino or Marion get to the final 2 without each other, they'll win. I think Marion probably has an easier path than Dino does at this point in time, especially if people know that Dino is a jury threat or that people in the jury see him as powerful. So yeah, I feel like a lot of it will come down to who controls Killarney's vote and also just who wins immunity.
Yeah, so I think we're on a similar page there. So it's exciting, though. I'm excited. The finales are always fun. It's going to be a long, drawn-out 4 episodes, but the end game is always interesting, and I'm very excited to see, because we don't have fire making, because no more advantages are in the game, because Dino played the extra vote here at 6 and didn't save it for Final 5, which also could be a blunder because Final 5, it's a 3-2 vote, technically, to get majority. Maybe he could have saved it to make it more useful going into next week. But yeah, maybe it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess let us know your thoughts for this group of episodes, this cluster. Do you think Phil and Dino set themselves up poorly to go into the finale, or do you think they set themselves up well to go into the finale week? Also, this week we podcasted our recap on a Saturday. Next week we will also be doing our finale week recap on a Saturday, probably Saturday evening, similar time, because if you haven't seen, going around on the internet on Friday evening, Alyssa and I will be participating in a Survivor YouTuber season rankings over on Russell Muscle TV's YouTube channel. So it's hosted by Russell Muscle and Flynn Masters here on YouTube. They do Survivor content as well as other TV show content. So we will be participating over there, and I think we are guesting with Peridium. So Friday nights we will be over there, and then we'll do Saturday Survivor SA. So definitely check out their channels, and you'll see us on Friday, but over there.
Yes. So let us know all your thoughts about Survivor SA in the comments down below. Give us your last minute winner pick and tell us anything else you think that we forgot to mention in this episode. We will see you guys next Saturday for more